Morning, folks. I'm just going to check that we are all started here. We're just having a wee run through the technology. So apologies for the delay and sitting looking blankly at your screen there. You're all very welcome to another webinar as part of Mid-Ulster Enterprise Week 2024. Today's webinar, as you know, is Scaling Up, Building a Mindset for Business Growth. My name's Denise Murtagh. I work for Dungannon Enterprise Centre. And this week, I'm delighted to be supporting Mid-Ulster District Council in organising and hosting their events and their webinars. I'm sure I've seen some of the names that have been coming in, and I recognise a lot of you from attending some of the events and webinars earlier in the week. So we're delighted to have you. I hope, like me, you had the kettle on this cold and frosty morning. Thank God we're on a webinar this morning and you didn't have to venture too far, hopefully. So hopefully you have a nice warm cup of tea or coffee with you now to keep you warm. We're only here for an hour, very short session. This morning we're going to be joined by Canice Nicholas and Scott Millar from Action Coach ANI. And we have a very special guest joining them. We have Benny O'Hanlon from Todd's Leap. And they're going to be diving into the mindset of business growth and how to scale up your business. So just a few technical things and a few housekeeping rules. We're using Zoom webinars for today's webinar, as we have been all week, and we will be doing so. So I would encourage you at any stage, if you have any questions for our hosts, our panelists, please use the Q&A function. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a little Q&A box, and you can type in your questions throughout the session. I'll be coming back in at the end to help facilitate those questions, and Canice, Scott and Benny will be here to answer any questions we have. Any technical difficulties that you have, there's also a chat function there, so please just use the chat function, and we've got a tech support team in the background who will assist you. So any problems or issues you're having, please add it into the chat. So without any further ado, I will hand you over first of all to Scott, who's going to introduce today's session, folks. Over to you, Scott.
Good morning, folks. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. There we go. Yeah, so yes, thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, we're excited to show you some cool stuff today. Very quickly, just a very brief introduction to Action Coach. Started 30 years ago in Australia by a chap called Brad Sugars. Now in 84 countries around the world. And Canice and myself and a few other colleagues have brought it to Northern Ireland. And yeah, we're excited to show you some of the methodologies we use with clients. Two parts to what we do. One part is the growth specialist part of our job, and that's where the transactional side of things and where we look at sales and marketing, how you operate with a team, what systems you have in your business. The other side of it then is the coaching part, and what we say is if we can grow the business owner, we can grow the business, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But you will have an opportunity to look more at that transactional side of things in an event we're going to run on the 4th of December, and we'll give you details on that at the end. So yeah, as I say, we're going to focus on the mindset that you require to grow a business, and we are going to give you some frameworks. And there's an awful lot of information in the world, but not very much implementation. So we want these frameworks to be actionable for you. We want you to be able to take them away, use them, and actually change the result you're getting. So the first one that I want to introduce you to is what we call a formula for success. And it's B times do equals have. Very, very simple. But where I think a lot of people go wrong or get it mixed up, myself included, before I learned about it, is we do it in reverse. So essentially, it's have. When I have that thing, I'll do those really cool things and I'll be that really cool person. But it doesn't work like that, or that way of the formula doesn't work. So say you wanted to have a nice house, or you wanted to have more time off, or you wanted to have £1 million, people would say, well, when I have £1 million, then I'm going to do those things and be that person. But it needs to start the other way around. There's no saying then, don't become a millionaire for the money, become a millionaire because of who you become. And when I teach this, I use myself as an example. And in a previous life, in a previous job, my formula wasn't great. So I was working, easily 80 hours a week, and wearing it like a badge of honor. So my do was probably like an 11 out of 10, couldn't do any more. But I wasn't looking after myself. I was, obviously wasn't at home with my family. When I was there, I wasn't present. Probably wasn't getting to the gym as much as I should have been. Definitely wasn't sleeping as much as I should have been or could have been. And I just wasn't maybe a great person to be around. So my B out of 10 was probably a two. So two 11s, of course, is 22 out of 100, which is not a great result. So how do we change that? How do we be more? And this is where we start to look at an identity iceberg. I don't know if any of you have seen this before, but if we can hang that formula off this iceberg, what we're saying here is results are all the way up at the top, up in the sky, and everybody can see those. Everybody can see the results that you get, and that's your have. Your do then is your actions, decisions, and your behaviors. They're what you do to get the result. And again, everybody can see them. In this example, they're above the waterline, so we can see what people are doing to get the result they're getting. But the B then is all the stuff that people can't see, and it's below the waterline. Your skills, your beliefs, values, identity, and then the environment that it all bobs around it. So I think it's useful to be definitively clear on what these words actually mean. So skills is pretty straightforward. It's if we learn new stuff, we've got the skill now, we can do it. But let's say for example, you're not very good at maths. And I could say, well, look, we'll get you a tutor and tutor for a few days, and then you sit your exam on Saturday and you pass the exam. And I said, well, okay, you're good at maths now, but the reality is that you might say, well, it was just an easy test. And what's happened there is that we've upgraded your skills, but we haven't changed your beliefs. And thoughts create your actions, and your actions, of course, then create your results. So there's no lasting effect because we haven't changed how you think. So we take it one level down, and the further we can go down the iceberg, the bigger the impact, and the greater lasting the impact will be. So if we have a look at your beliefs, then your beliefs are simply something you hold to be true. So they can be changed at any time. And actually, our beliefs are formed before we're seven. We form our beliefs when we're seven. And some of them are given to us, without us really examining them or thinking, are they the right belief? So in that example, it could be that somebody, when you were seven, told you weren't very good at maths, and you've carried that belief with you ever since. And beliefs, I always think, are a little bit like bricks. We were carrying this bag of bricks around with us, and we never set it down to have a look at them. But if it's a negative belief, it could be described then as rubble, which isn't a very good foundation to build your behaviors on. Whereas if we could realign that belief and say, well, do you know what? Actually, I've got the skills now, and I am good at maths, then that's a much more solid foundation to build the behavior, build the action, and change the result. Values then are something that you hold to be important. And we never try to change those because that's your moral compass. That's how you view the world. But sometimes our values can be limiting as well. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute, or a real life example of how this all works. Our identity then is essentially our how we see ourselves in the world. And there's a part of the brain called your reticular activating system, your RAS, your brain's compass. And essentially what we're looking for there is evidence to support, like looking for evidence to support, are we good or bad at that thing? We're looking for evidence to support our beliefs around ourselves. And if those beliefs are poor, then the evidence will be backed up by the action or the behavior and the result, and then that will feed the evidence to support the fact that the belief is true or what you hold to be true. So it's a never-ending cycle, and we always need to change the belief to be an enabling belief, and that's how we'll essentially change the result of what we're getting. Environment then is essentially anything that you can put parameters around, and parameters are if you look at anything, that your physical environment, anything like your time, your money, and most importantly then your internal what you think about yourself, your internal thinking. And it's the saying is the only thing that's true in life is what you tell yourself when you're by yourself. I mean, a question to ask you, and I don't know, Denise, if we could get some answers on this, I would just ask the guys there. I would ask them, has anybody heard of I am statements, and does anybody do I am statements? I don't know if you guys can let me know if there's anything coming in on the chat box there. See a couple coming in.
Hi, Scott. Yes, the chat box is there's some things coming in there. Can you see the chat okay, Scott? It should hopefully come up on your
Yes,
screen as
see them
well.
coming in now. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so no, have heard of them, but never practiced them. Yes, ad hoc. Sorry, no. Okay, so no. Okay, so the thing is, if I'm asking you, do you have I am statements, and you're saying no, I would challenge that and say yes, yes you do. Everybody has I am statements. So what we say is I am statements are the two most powerful words in the human language or the English language. Sorry. Um, because you're internalizing it to yourself. So people say, I am tired, I am broke. They're negative statements that we all make to ourselves. So I am statements are a systematic approach to build that belief system um, in a positive way. So if you say, think about what your goals are, think about what the results you want to have are, and we make statements that would support that. So in the example I gave earlier, people might think I'm not good at maths, but if you say I am good at maths, we give you the skills to be good at maths, you pass the test, and you're telling yourself that you're good at maths, then you're going to start to change your belief. As humans, we're herd animals, and we want to collude with each other. So essentially, I am statements just allow you to collude with yourself, and um, a system for having positive I am statements is that twice a day, so every once in the morning, once in the afternoon, or sorry, evening, and any other time you need it. So have a think about what your goals are. It could be, I'm an expert speaker. If you start to tell yourself you're good at, public speaking, you do a good job with public speaking, you're going to start to believe that. If I think back and use myself as an example again, I was when I was at school, I was never great at football. And of course, if I, ever got past the ball, and I took a shot, and maybe it went in, I would just, said it was a fluke. But I can assure you, more often than not, it went very far wide. But I actually was better at rugby. Again, if I had a few pints, I would tell you I was brilliant at it. I wasn't, for clarity, but I was better at rugby than I was at football, and I believed that. So, if I was playing a rugby match and I made a bad pass, I would just throw that away and say, well, it's just one bad pass because I believed that I was good at rugby. And that's the power of what you believe, and the way to, as I say, to change that belief system, because it's just something you hold to be true at the time and can be changed quite easily. So the way to believe that is to think about your goals, think about statements that will support that. Now, it doesn't just work, it's not magic, right? You can't just say, look, I am an amazing public speaker, or I am an amazing business person, and it happens. You have to do the work as well. But what the statements will allow you to do is to start to change the belief, which then changes your thoughts, which then change your behaviors, change your actions, and change that result. So I said earlier, I'll give you a real world example of this. So I was working with a client's sales manager, and he as often happens, had been the best salesperson in the business or in the company, and they promoted him to sales manager. And I asked him, what sort of results are you getting? And he was like, I'm struggling. I have no time. I'm trying to manage the team, but they ultimately, they bring the stuff to me. And I said, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And of course, when the people, his team brought him the issue, he would just say, leave it with me. Because, in his mind, look, he was the best salesperson. So they had a problem. He was the best person in the company to solve that. So we talk about him putting on his Superman cape there, saying, leave it with me. And a great book on that actually is The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. So he said, leave it with me. Of course they do. Then he fixes it, but it's taken up his time. So I said, what would be a better what would be a better result? So that's all very good, you know, that you're helping your team. And when we dug around it, that was one of his core values, is that he wanted to be helpful. So I said, like, what would be a better result for you to be getting through the lens of a manager? And he said, well, a team that are well trained and can think on their own initiative, which of course is never going to happen if he does all of the work or fixes all of the problems for him, or for them. Sorry. So instead of saying, leave it with me, I coached him to say, look, okay, let's have a look at the problem. So into the learning cycle where he was able to show them what to do, they were able to do it. He observed, and then he observed again and gave them feedback. So they then learn how to fix the problem, and he doesn't always have to fix it for them. And that ultimately, made the team stronger, made him a better manager. But the whole thing is that what we did there was we didn't change his value, which was to be helpful. We changed his belief around the value that he didn't have to do the thing to be helpful. It was more helpful for him as a manager to teach them to do it. And then we gave him the skills with the learning cycle to be able to help his team and change the result the team were getting, and ultimately the result that he was getting as a manager. So that's in a nutshell. That's be to have an ID iceberg. Going to hand across now to Canice, who can take us through the next framework. So I will stop my video here and let Canice come in.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. Thanks, Scott, for that. Okay, I'm just going to talk about the point of power and how your mindset and your beliefs and your, I suppose, actions on a daily basis affect the quality of your life and the impact that you will have on your business. Scott, if you can just advance that slide there for me. Okay, so what we're going to first talk about is the stuff below the line, and that's the blame, the excuses, and the denial on that. And it's funny, the stuff below the line, the acronym BED, and that, so it's an easy one to remember. And every morning when you have the choice of if you're going to live below the line that day or above the line, and that if you're one of those people that hits the snooze button in the morning, what is that message sending to your brain? Scott has talked about your RAS, or your reticular activating system in the brain. If you hit the snooze button in the morning, well, obviously the first thing is that your brain's knocked off again. So you're not preparing your brain for the day ahead. I start off with denial, and no, it's not a river in Egypt. Denial is where you don't acknowledge that that there's a problem or there's a situation. When you're not willing to admit things, denial is a very safe place to be. It's not dealing with it. So a bit of homework on that. Maybe, this evening when you've a bit of time, think about things in your life where you're living in denial, where you're not admitting to those problems. The next thing is excuses. Come here. We can all have excuses. I don't do webinars. Do you know what I mean? It's too cold this morning. It's snowing outside. We can always find an excuse, so we can. People who use the classic excuses, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. And most people use excuses not to take action on that. It's like people would say to me, oh, I can't run. Do you know what I mean? I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I'm too heavy, I'm too tall, I'm too short. And that it's all excuses and that. The next one is blame and that. So the problem with blame is that when you blame something or someone, especially when you blame someone, you're actually breaking trust and that. Be that at home, be that in relationships, or be that in business. If you blame the sales team for not hitting the targets, well, you know, in front of your managers or in front of anybody, well, I think how the sales team's going to feel about that, and you've broke that trust, and it's hard to build that trust back again. Um, Somebody's not paid, you blame accounts, you know. So all these mindsets or all these habits are in businesses or people that aren't ready for scaling, aren't happy, and not willing to grow. You know, the classic ones that we all have is, you know, we blame Trump's going to get in, you know, we blame the war, we blame like every crisis, there's an opportunity, and that, so it is. So you have to change that blame mentality. And I remember when I was very, very young, somebody explained to me, you know, when you're pointing one finger at yourself, just remember you're always pointing three fingers back or sorry, pointing one finger at anybody, you're always pointing three fingers back at yourself. So before you blame somebody, just think about that, and the impact that's having. So if you're somebody that's living below that point of power, and that you just need to acknowledge it, and you just need to take action, on that, and switch your mindset to the points above the line. So above the line is responsibility, accountability, and ownership. And another, using the acronym again, OR. So if you want to go forward, you want to be in that OR mentality. So people who are responsible are take actions, results driven. They take deadlines, they take responsibility. If you think, as a parent, you're responsible for getting your children out, you're responsible for getting your children fed. In business, you're responsible for getting, you know, those KPIs, those deadlines, and that. And the great thing about taking responsibility, if you're responsible for a situation, and that, well, then you have the power to change that situation. So that's responsibility. So then following on to accountability is, you're responsible to get the job done, and then you're accountable for the results at the end of it. So if you take in terms of HR, or that or in team, you're responsible to recruit somebody, you're accountable to train somebody to make them better. In finance, you're responsible for paying people in a timely fashion. You're accountable for building the cash flows and the balance sheet and more money for the company. You can't move up the ladder until you are accountable on that, and you can't hit the numbers until the goals happens. So to get to the next level of the point of power, it's ownership. And you just think for a little second about the word ownership. It's owning your ship, owning your business, owning your home. It's the full responsibility, for that scaling to the next bit. It's taking full ownership. And so ownership of your life is where you're the person who has to change, and that, the world owes you nothing. You just, you make a decision, you make the changes, and you take the actions, to scale and own that ownership piece. You need to look around, who you're socializing with, who you're spending time with. You are the person of, you know, I'm sure you've all heard it, you are the five people you surround yourself with. That's in mindset, that's in business, that's in ambition, and that. So you need to look at who you surround yourself, and that. And if they're not the right fit, you know, or they don't have the same mindset that you want, then you have to look outside of that, and see, where you want to go with your life. You know, where the point of power I have seen has been a real success for people in business, and successful companies that have scaled, is they basically have this, an A4 of us, sitting in the office, sitting on the shop floor, sitting in the workshop, and somebody in the team will actually call somebody else. You know, why is that done? and if it blames somebody, a manager or somebody else in the team steps in and goes, that's below the line, that's below the point of power. Take responsibility for your actions. So successful teams will always perform above the point of power. And as I say, you have a decision to make that on every day. If you feel you feel you're below the point of power at the minute, just own it, let it go, move on, and let's change. And that don't put it off until the new year. Just take ownership today and just do that today. We follow up more later on in the Q&A on that and the questions with Scott and Benny, but I'll just pass you back on to Scott now, if that's okay.
Thanks, Canice. Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful framework above and below the line or above and below the point of power. And as Canice says, the biggest effect is when people actually live it. And it's not just words, it's visible and people are calling people out on it. Because things are going to happen. And it's all about how you react to them. That's, you're what's going to happen to you is probably out of your control, but your response it's your responsibility or your ability to respond that's going to change the outcome. So, excited to announce our special guest, Benny O'Hanlon. So, Benny, can you come on screen and we can have a chat? I'm keen to find out what you thought about what we just shared. If you just we can see you now, so you just unmute yourself there, Benny.
Mute. Me and technology. Technology don't get on that well.
We're never beat yet.
Yeah.
So Benny, look, you and I have had a chat before on our podcast about your career, and I thought it'd be great to have you along today. So would you like to just introduce yourself? Just give us a quick synopsis of what you guys do and how long you've been doing it.
Well, I've been in business most of my life when I was a bit of a teenager, and we're probably most famous for Todd's Leap Activity Centre. It's a very well-known business, very high-profile business, and reasonably successful, does well. And we also, believe it or not, have a pallet racking and shelving business. So we're in the storage business and the storage products business as well. Very, very diverse two businesses. A third business is we sell Land Rovers and we do up Land Rovers and we work at 4x4 stuff. So a number of businesses, all based around what I like working at. Good diversity between the businesses, and that came to fruition during COVID, whenever the activity centre was closed down, and we were forced to shut. And the other business it was the right business, the right place, the right time, and plenty of people to capitalise on the growth that was there. So from my point of view, I've always been in business, and I fish where the fish are. I follow the trends, and I'm not afraid to branch out, and I'm not afraid to diversify, and I'm not afraid to change my tack. You know what I mean? So there's a number of things that you were talking about there about ownership and accountability. Well, they're just basics, and if you don't take ownership of your own business, guess what? You won't be the owner of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was something you mentioned there just a second ago. When I talk about above and below the point of power, I often say, look, everything is your fault. Is as good a way to look at it as any, or it might not be your fault, but it's your problem. And just when you mentioned COVID, obviously you got an event center there, which I know was a substantial part of your business, but that wasn't your fault, but it was definitely your problem. So what you described there, would you say that was the ownership and accountability, and you took responsibility then to fish where the fish are?
Yeah, well, you see, when you start your business with nothing, right? Guess what? You've got nothing to lose.
Yes.
So all you have to do is go ahead. Our mantra in both businesses, and I spread this with all my staff and people that I employ: say what you do, now do what you say. Yeah. That's as simple as that. That's business. That's as simple as that. And I don't care what business you look at, successful, unsuccessful, booming or bust. If you apply that logic, did they say what they were doing and did they do what they were saying? And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's very, very few things outside of that. So you do have to you can blame all the thing, you make all the excuses, you can do all the denying you want. You're going absolutely and totally nowhere. Like if you're in business, guess what? You got to grow up, and you got to grow up very, very quick, and you got to let go of mommy's apron strings, and you got to get on with it. You have to take full responsibility, and then it's your business. If you're not taking full responsibility, well, then it's not your business. It's as simple as that. It belongs to whoever. It doesn't belong to you. Whoever has the responsibility is the person that owns the business. You know what I mean? And you've seen that in very, very good businesses, like across, and poor businesses, where you have an owner that's swanning off. Like we're doing work with the business at the minute, and it's come down a generation. And the first thing that the new managing director done was treated himself to a Lamborghini Avatar.
Right.
Now,
Nice.
now, I'm not one for casting aspersions or anything like that, but I can tell you what, he sent the wrong message to his staff, he sent the wrong message to his customers, and he sent the wrong message to himself.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And what so that
So where would you say? I mean, that if we look at the the have be to have, he's wanted to have that, but he
yeah,
hasn't been or done the right things to have it yet.
absolutely not, absolutely not. He's taken on a business that same as if he won the lotto. Do you know what I mean? And I can tell you now, unless he gets out of his honeymoon very, very fast, his business is going to go completely and totally. I reckon he'll do well to hold it for 2 years, and it's a big, big business. But that's just that, and good lad and all the rest. But he doesn't take responsibility for the day-to-day running up and down, over and back. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
just he's just thinks because he's the MD and he's the captain of the ship, and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. That's not where it starts. You have to have your hand on the pulse. You have to have your hand on the pulse of your business. You have to know what's going on. You have consistent and purposeful action to talk about. So you have to turn up consistently, and you have to take action consistently, and you have to be adaptable to change. So the thing can change in a heartbeat. Like
Yes.
look at the food, look at the restaurant business, and this is street eat that you talk about. And
Yeah.
like you have these people turning up with these tailors and turning into really, really successful businesses. That's fantastic and good to see. But the successful ones is the one where the owner is pouring the coffee, and the one where they bounce on and start putting youngsters in to do this and to do that, and then they're going to start buying the Lamborghinis. Guess what? They don't last long. So
No.
I've always said, and I always say, and my advice to anybody starting a business is to treat every day in business as if it's your first day. And if you go back to the first day you were even being an action coach, you think of what you wanted to provide, you think about the heart you had in the business, and you think of the purpose. You were saying what you were going to do, and then you were doing what you said.
Yes.
Now, once people get away from that, inevitably that waters down and filters down, and it can filter down and water down by either success or failure. They both bring the same things.
And what is it that what do you think the success or failure is changing then to water that down?
It's just not you just stop taking the consistent action, as you say, the snooze button on the clock.
Yeah.
That's
So
your
is it
enemy.
the actions then are being delivered by or driven by their thoughts, which are being driven by their beliefs? So
Absolutely,
beliefs are being changed about their environment then because
absolutely,
they've had a few
absolutely.
knockbacks where they had a few
Yeah,
wins.
yeah, yeah. You can't the wins. Celebrate your wins. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Celebrate wins, but don't do not think that you know what I mean. Like the people that disappear up their own rear end when they win a trophy. I've seen it 101 times. You know what I mean?
Yes. But
Like
that's it. I love that actually. Just to keep you grounded, keep you focused. Back to
yeah,
treat it as if it's your first day. What beliefs and actions do you take on
absolutely.
day one?
Absolutely. Well, you've seen it over and over and over and over again. Like the enterprise centre, you see people coming in there and they would bleed blood to get their business up and going. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's unbelievable that when you see somebody start out in business, that the the sacrifices that they make to get the thing to work. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, and you're talking to somebody that has their own business, and you're talking to them and they don't answer a phone that's ringing on their desk, and you're going, hold on a second here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have took your eye off the ball. So
Yeah, they're making
that's
it. Yeah, they're in denial there.
absolutely, absolutely.
When you talk about the snooze button there, it's like, you say they would bleed blood to get their business up and running, and they probably still tell you, they do whatever it takes, but like they won't get up half an hour earlier.
no, no, you don't own a business. You're married to a business.
Okay.
And in a successful marriage, you're all in or you're not in. And it's the same in business. And I have yet to meet a successful business person who isn't all in their business.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of stuff in my time, and I've kissed a lot of frogs. I've been in a lot of business, but the people that don't put in the consistent effort and stay adaptable to change, like
Yeah.
everybody knows the Kodak story. They
Yeah.
laughed at the phones, taking photographs of phones.
Yeah.
Now they're gone. Do you know what I mean?
It's about learning to dance on the moving carpet instead of having the rug pulled out from under, isn't it?
Absolutely, because the business world changes. Look at retail. Look at the clothing shops around the town, the high end clothing shops. Everybody's going online, blah blah blah. The thing has to change, and you have to understand the dynamic of the business for it to be successful. You know what I
The
mean?
last time we spoke, Benny, you told me about the first time somebody set a computer on your desk. Now I can see it's still not your best friend, but you've obviously had to adapt and change and be resilient throughout your life and career. What would you put that resilience down to? Is it your beliefs, or what part of your mindset has allowed you to do that and be so
There's
successful?
probably still a bit of insecurity. You don't want to be a mug good talking to these people and whatever and whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got accountants years and years ago, and we put a Sage system in the office.
Yes.
Now you may as well have parked a space rocket on the street. But what I done, instead of throwing my hands up in there, I went to night's class in the tech, and I done Sage accountancy. Now I have never ever used it, but what I wanted to know was how the damn thing worked. So
Yes.
whenever anybody else was using it and they were telling me about it and showing me something that I had a basic understanding. So you don't need a degree in the thing, but you needed at least a beginner level indication of how the thing works and understand it.
It's a great example of you not being below the point of power. You weren't in denial. You didn't make an excuse. You took action. You took ownership of it, responsibility. You were above the line. You weren't a victim in it, and you got it. You got the result. You were able to talk to your accountants and use it.
Well,
I can think of a more up to date example where I know you're pretty prolific on TikTok these days,
yeah.
as well.
We've got the TikTok bug, So we're doing a bit of that, you know what I mean? So
That's where you brought, you're not an expert, but you brought somebody in who is.
absolutely, well, anybody under the age of 12 is real good at it. Any of the young ones, anybody under sort of 18 or 19, the youngsters can fly at TikTok, and we have plenty of help from grandchildren and stuff, and some of the young staff that work here. You know what I mean? But if that's the way you have to do your marketing, that's the way you have to do your marketing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember getting a new Jeep one time, 25 years ago, and putting the logo down the side of the Jeep in the showroom. Now, and I done full scale, full size Todd's Leap, front indicator to back tail light down the side of a brand new Jeep. And the people seeing us doing it, they were appalled. They were absolutely appalled. But I didn't buy the new vehicle that time for my personal blah blah blah. I needed it to make a statement of what we'd done and who we were and where we were, and it was a perfect canvas to paint the picture on. So guess what? The Jeep got it, and that's the way it is. I mean, so you can't be precious about stuff. You have to get the message out, and whatever it takes. If it takes a silly video on TikTok, so be it. If it takes plastering a vehicle, or if it takes whatever, you know what I mean. You just have to go with the flow. The young ones have the good ideas about the marketing, especially now this online stuff. So you have to listen to them.
Yeah.
You have to listen to them.
Just another example of your open-mindedness. I mean, it's like as soon as you have a closed mindset, you're done, really, aren't you?
Well, you see, you don't know it all, and God forbid you know people, you know a few people that do think they know it all, but you also know that they're not really getting anywhere. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so I would surround myself with the right people. With I always say that I try and employ people who are smarter than me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Now on paper, I'm the thickest person in the group because they've got O levels and A levels and degrees, and they've got this and they've got that. That's brilliant. But I always look for really, really clever people, successful people, and I try and employ them and get them to work for us. You know what I mean? So get the hire people for their attitude. You know, train them up to do whatever you want them to do. You know what I mean? And then you can trust them to you can delegate the work to them and trust them to do the thing. You know, so that's all you can do. You have to network. Like I'm talking to you, like I take every opportunity to network,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a waste of time, and sometimes it's not. Do you know what I mean? And like I have got massive deals, and I mean massive deals, by sitting down with somebody, in particular on a long haul flight, and talking to them. Now I got two really, really big contracts in my career in my lifetime because I was sitting beside the right person on an airplane. And you know what I mean? So you never know when you're networking. You never ever dismiss anybody. Never ever dismiss. You could be sitting talking to somebody or give somebody a lift on the road or whatever. Like last night when I was going home, there was a minor accident on the road, and I stopped to give the woman a hand. Woman a bit of a hand and get her. She had hit a dog on the road and broke her bumper, and trying to tidy up that mess. But it turns out we swapped business cards. And when I got home and into late and seen her business card, she's actually got a fascinating role, and I actually can use her services. Do you know what I
Right
mean?
on.
Like, we were sorting out this accident, and hardly more than time to say who we were. So your networking never stops.
Yeah.
Your networking never stops, and you go to these things. Like we're involved with the Northern Ireland Social Media Awards. That's the biggest networking thing of the year for social media. Now,
Yeah.
and again, I'm crap at computers and crap at social media and all that.
That's a
But
limiting belief there, Benny. You're on Zoom
yeah,
here.
yeah. But in comparison to the people that can whiz and fly at it, but
Yes.
but I still get involved. I still, I
You put yourself
still
out there.
absolutely wear the hat. You know what I mean? Get in there
And what you're describing there is it's who not how. You know, if you've got a problem with business, it's who can help me here, not how can I help myself.
absolutely, absolutely. You know what I
We're,
mean?
we're just coming up to the last part of this. Simon, Benny, there's just one last question I wanted to ask you. You talked about you've got three very
Sorry,
diverse.
you just knocked out a wee second there.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you've got three very diverse businesses, but they're all passions of yours. If I understand right, there's things that
yeah,
you enjoy. You know
yeah.
what importance would you put on that in a business? You know, is that something that is integral to your success, or could you do
Well,
something that's just
it's well, how do you describe it? Like there's a false rumor that if you love what you're doing, you're not working. That's that's half right.
yeah,
That's half right. It helps if you enjoy what you're doing. It really, 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 really helps. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I enjoy meeting people. Well,
yes,
that's perfect for networking, and it's perfect for the activity centre and meeting some wonderful people there, and it's unbelievable the connections I've made with people there. Like I enjoy off road, enjoy vehicles. Boom, I'm working on vehicles, but I enjoy helping people and helping out problems, and I'm good at logistics, and I'm good at that. So I'm naturally good at something. So then I share that, but then I'm making money by sharing it. So if you work in your area of expertise, it's a big, big help.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not. I don't know if it's compulsory or not. I wouldn't go as far as saying that. It certainly has helped me.
yeah.
Like,
I'm thinking it probably helps for longevity.
well, absolutely. Like my warehouse racking business is going now over 45 years. I started when I was four, like obviously. So the business going the activity centre is going 35 years. So to pull a business for that length of time and be sort of half successful or keep it going, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll
No,
take
it's
that. You know what I
you're
mean?
definitely getting your training wheels off there.
But if you like what you're doing, it's a big, big help. It's a big, big help. You know what I mean? It's not compulsory, but it's definitely a help.
Brilliant. Listen, Benny, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing that. Some brilliant words of wisdom there. I hope everybody else has enjoyed it, and there's been some actionable steps. So I wanted to then just um, invite Denise back in. I think she's going to facilitate a Q&A with us then. And if maybe if Canice can come back on as well.
My favorite saying in the world at things like this, and people don't understand it, but I learned it from a very, very important person. Questions are the answer.
Alan Pease, is that?
That's Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
So if you ask a dumb question, you'll get a dumb answer. If you ask a good question, you'll get a good answer. And if you ask an excellent question, you've got an excellent answer coming. So questions always, when you get an opportunity, especially when you're networking, there's a wee thing on Instagram where there's a fella running around with a microphone, and he's doorstepping really successful people in Monaco, and he's doing wee short, like 2-3 minute interviews. Tell me one thing you'd tell your younger self. Have you ever been broke? They're fantastic, because there's real pearls of wisdom. He's just catching these boys, boom, on them. No setup, no nothing. He's just asking them straight out. And some of the answers are absolutely fantastic and really, really good. So I'd invite you to try and find that. And it's like everyone else, I don't even know where to find it, but it's there if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Let the algorithm help you out. But again, people are happy to help. Don't give back.
Well, listen, if you share your knowledge, if you mentor other people, you're helping yourself.
Yes.
And what you give, you get back tenfold. You know, there's absolutely no, share your knowledge. Like I have competitors in business, and they'll be sneaking about and wondering what you're doing, wondering what you're doing. If they just ask me, they'd get a cup of coffee and all the answers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's absolutely nothing to hide, because at the end of the day, take out whatever geographic area you're in. Take Northern Ireland. There's something over 3 or 3.5 million people. Well, if every single one of them walked into your office tomorrow looking you to work for them, there's nothing you could do. So you'd be snookered.
Making me think, again, it's this abundance mindset that we have to have. And
absolutely.
Brad Sugar's action coach founder. He told me once that people at the bottom compete, but people at the top collaborate.
Absolutely. The more like when I see people, the friends of mine in business that are looking at people for work, and they're hiring, I share their job things. That's no thing to me. Like all the people, I remember somebody saying to me, "Gosh, don't you do that? You could send somebody that you could be doing with, and you send them to them." I says, "That's not the way it works."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you close in that you can't see me, well, guess what? Nobody will see you.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to bang your drum. And I'm very, very famous for saying you're it if you say you're it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's your belief then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We'll hand over. Any questions there?
I'm hoping we'll have a few more. Benny, you've been so open, and people are commenting in the chat here about the candid chat that we're having here, and how open your advice and all you've been. And I know we are talking about this scaling and the mindset for scaling a business and growing a business. But someone has asked, and obviously in order to scale, you have to start somewhere.
You had to
start somewhere as well. And someone has asked, what advice would you give to somebody that's at that point of starting out a business?
It's a very loaded question. You have people at 15, 16 starting business. I know a person that started their business at 65. Right, they worked all their life, and when they retired, they started their own business. And the business that they started is twice the business that they were working at because they own it. So the first thing when you're starting your own business, start with passion. That's number one. If it's for you, it's for you, and if it's not for you, if your heart's not in it, guess what? Don't go. And then you need a wee bit of realism. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to start a phone network company in Ballygolly or Tyrone, and you have no money, and you're on the dole, you're in a council house. You're not going to get them. Like, I'd love to be driving a spaceship, but I'm not going. That's not going to happen because I'm not in them circles. So you need a bit of realism. You need realism, but at the same time, there's things out there that you think are impossible, and you can still do them. You can still do them. I had a very, very good friend who when COVID hit, and he took a product to the head of a massive organization, an international organization, and he showed him a product, and he got the order for. I'm not I wouldn't even put a number on it. And I can't say who it is because you all actually know who it is, but he had some belief. He made this simple thing that he could carry in his inside pocket, and he showed it. He hunted down the top man, and he showed it, and he got the order, and then he was all over the country with it. You know what I mean? But he probably made on one single product that you could hold in your hand. He made probably £1 million in net profit, probably. So do not let people bait you back. I remember when I started Todd Leap, and I come up here and what are you at? What are you at? What are you at? And I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He says, for God's sake, he says, who in the right mind would pay money to drive around that field in the Land Rover? You know? And I said, exactly. He says, see, that's not what we're selling. But I says, that's what we're doing. But that's not what we're selling. We're not selling it that way. So a million people later, is he right or he's wrong? He's right. Nobody would drive a Land Rover in a field of circles. You have to make it interesting, and you have to make it. You have to get the right colours. You got to make the track. You got to do this. You got to do that. So anybody starting a business, find a mentor. Find a mentor, and that's not simple. But find a mentor and run the business past them. Run the business past the mentor. Now, don't find somebody that's going to steal the business off you. Find a mentor that'll discuss it with you. When I was starting out in business, I had the good fortune of tipping across Brian McCauley in at the Price Centre. And Brian gave me sage advice that I have to this day. And very, very few people know this, but when I started my business, I was 2 or 3 years into my business and I was still signing on the dole. And the best bit of advice that Brian McCauley gave me was get rid of that prop. He says, you're going nowhere till you get rid of that. And that was very, very factual, and that was good advice. And he was dead right. Once I got rid of it, I never had to go back. So you need, sometimes there's young people and even older people that have really, really good business ideas, and they're just scared to take the first step. And sometimes the first step can be daunting for them, but it's actually really, when you're somebody with an experience, it's really, really simple. Really, really simple. You know what I mean? So don't be put off. Don't be put off, but be ready to work and be ready to put your heart in. And if it's for you, it's for you. There's no question or no doubt about that.
Yeah, definitely, Benny. Thank you. And it goes back, I think, Canice or Scott, you mentioned earlier on, it's very much about who you surround yourself with as well, especially at those early stages, because with the best will in the world, your family and friends are the ones that are maybe looking out for you, and maybe the ones that are a bit more apprehensive on your big venture. So it is important, as you say, to have that, stick with your passion. A wee touch of realism goes a long way as well, but find a mentor, and that's coming back to what I know, Scott, that you had mentioned at the start as well. It's really important to have the right people. Canice, I know you wanted to jump in there and say something.
Yeah.
I'll have another look at the questions coming in.
Yeah, I suppose just to add to Benny, and that question, one, you have to start. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Procrastinate all you want, but you have to start. Two, as Henry Ford always said, if you believe you can and believe you can't, you're both right on that. And three, desperation is actually a really good motivating factor, because and Benny said it, when you don't have anything, it's only one way up, and there's nothing like it to get you out of bed in the morning and get that passion when you have people to feed and things to do and that. So just make that start.
There's a few more questions in here, and I'm just keeping a wee eye on the time as well, as we're coming up to 10:30 in 5 minutes or so. So someone has put in a question. So business has been really tough in 2024. They've taken on part-time work to help cover some of the bills and trying to keep the business alive as well. So it's hard to find time to explore other ideas, and that's probably a problem a lot of our entrepreneurs will have. So many ideas, and that they have to grow the business. So that blaming of lack of time, this person's aware that it's blaming the lack of time they have is never going to help. So do you have any advice? And this probably question is for any of you guys, any advice on how to deal with that when you're just slogging away in the business? Time is so precious, and trying to get that time to look at other ideas to actually grow your business. They have a young family at home, so that's obviously a juggling match, as we can all understand. What advice would you give, Benny? I'll ask you first, maybe to answer that.
Well, I was that soldier. So when my kids were young, and council house, rent to pay, food to put on the table, working for somebody else, mad head full of business ideas, right? And it's a catch-22. How do you step out? How do you step out? How do you step out? And you have to be cautious. You have to be cautious, and you have to look after your responsibilities. But again, this is where the mentor comes in. If you've got the right idea, if you've got the right business, you can. There's plenty. There's absolutely any God's amount of help out there of people that are willing to help you. And I know very few successful businessmen that don't help you, that wouldn't help you, and genuine ones. Now there's some toe rags that wouldn't, but then they wouldn't help themselves either. But they won't help anybody. But you know them sort of people. But you have to get started. You know, the Confucius says, journey of 1,000 miles starts with single step. And that's what it is, you know. And if you've got a business idea, if it's a product, you got to get the product made. If it's a service, you got to test the service, whatever. So if you do your test run on a holiday break or whatever, or you have to get the thing made. You have to, you know what I mean. I call it kissing the frogs. You know what I mean. You have to kiss them to see if they're a prince or not, and there's no other way. You have to sleeves up and in you go. You know what I mean. And without knowing the ins and outs of an individual, but absolutely, if somebody has an idea that they want to work for themselves, and I've seen it, I've employed people this 50 years, and if somebody wants to work for themselves, they're absolutely no good as an employee anyway. They will work for themselves. And I've had employees myself who have got bigger, have left me and started their own business and have better businesses than I have. So I've no qualms with that, and fair play to their wee will, and I give them whatever help I can. But you have to get started. Like one fella who worked here in a fairly, it turned into a fairly big business, and he started that business in a bedroom of his own house, and he was working for me during the day, and then he started the business at night and at weekends and on holidays, and he got to the stage that he branched out and went on his own. Still done a bit for us on a part-time basis until he eventually couldn't do any more. He's got a bigger business than I have today. So that's what I say. You have to go for it.
You have to go for it, and you have to try and make the time. A few people have actually asked similar questions around that, you know, finding the time and taking time to take a step back. So hopefully that's answered it for them as well. I know we have one last, because we are coming up to 10:30. When we're talking about finding help, Benny, I know you're saying about surrounding yourself with good people, find a mentor and finding that help, finding people that are smarter than you to do the bits and pieces that you need the help to do. There's a few people asking about how do you go about finding a mentor. Obviously, as someone who works for an enterprise agency here in Dungannon, to me, I'd be saying your first point of call, find your local enterprise agency.
The local enterprise centre is full of people that'll help you, right?
Full of people. And Canice and Scott, obviously, action coach as well. You guys
action coach as well. I'm a business mentor for Princess Trust. So that automatically, that's automatically free. And I don't even know who them people are coming from, but I've offered my services because anybody that's willing to they're putting their life on hold, or they're putting their neck on the line to start a business, I'll give them whatever help I can. Now, sometimes you see the other thing is the mentor the mentor you get might more pip to you. You might need 2 or 3. You might need somebody in a certain area to help out and so on. You know what I mean? And a mentor doesn't take much. I had one there in the last number of years who she was a girl was speaking to me at a I was out doing a business talk, and she come to see me after the thing. I mentored her for a couple or 3 times, not much. And very recently, she won a national award for her business. Very, very recently. So she was really in a catch-22 because she had a 24-year career that she was going to walk away from and start a business that wasn't related to her career. So she took some step, like, you know what I mean? But worked out well, worked out really, really successful for her. We went through looked at all the ways she could do it and what balances, checks and balances she could in. So she found out that she didn't realise she could take a career break. So she took the career break and started the business, and boom, she ain't going back. You know what I mean? So there is. Uh, I have a very famous thing I say at meetings. Don't be afraid to say something stupid at a meeting, because it could be the key to the whole things. And I've umpteen times I've proved that the daftest thing that people would be even embarrassed asking or saying, there you go, boom, there's the answer right there. So the help's there. The enterprise centres have a lot of help, and there's a lot of business people out there that'll help you, and so on. And you'd be surprised if you're thinking of doing something that you can subcontract a big business, and you just make the point and go and talk to the guy or girl and say, "I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think?" And they will. I'm telling you now, you'd be surprised,
Yeah.
amazed, and astounded at the help that you get.
Never be afraid to ask the question. As you say, once you take
I
that fear of looking bad away, it opens up a whole
yeah.
world of opportunities for you.
I recently was at a funeral of a friend of mine, Harry Gormley. Harry Gormley's engineering, and when I was young, like Harry Gormley would, like people would have told you, "Oh, don't be that man, wouldn't talk to that man, wouldn't talk to you." That was the best business mentor I ever had in my life, right? I didn't realize when I was young that I was getting business mentorship, but I'm saying the help was there, and it's there. It's there in loads and spades. All you have to do is look for it, and don't be afraid. You know what I mean? There's some people that are too proud to ask for a bit of help and ask for mentorship. Throw that pride away. If you want to do something, forget about that pride thing. You can take pride in your work whenever you get it up and going, but don't be none of that nonsense. I'm not asking. I'm no you ask. No, I'll ask. No, don't no. Stop that. If you're committed, go for it. Passion.
Never be afraid to ask. Benny, thank you so much.
Never be afraid to ask.
I'm going to give the last word over to Scott and Canice here before I close off the session in a few minutes and finish.
I'm just reading that question, and I'll just say this and I'll hand over to Canice to finish up. But when if you think about above and below the line, and people say they're busy, being busy in business is just an excuse. And as Benny said, we don't know the ins and outs, but for anybody who's having that same question, I would say, what are your goals? And are you taking action towards them? Because that's, if you've got that vision of a goal, something bad that happens when you're operating from vision, that's just a speed bump instead of a brick wall. So have a think about your goals and have a think about are you actually working towards them and being productive instead of just being busy and doing stuff.
Thank you, Scott. Canice?
Yeah, come here. I'm not going to keep anybody any longer. And I just want to thank Mid-Ulster, for giving us the opportunity here. Thanks to Benny and that, for his openness and honesty. No stupid questions. If anybody wants to get a mentor, just ask them. You know what I mean? People want to help. It's in their nature to help, and the majority of people want to help people. And on that, we're actually going to run a workshop in the new Connect building. I was on it for the first time yesterday in Dungannon there with the Enterprise Centre. Brilliant building for anybody in business, meeting spaces, or anybody working from home that's looking at pop-up office or anything like that there. It's a great space. We will be emailing out a evaluation form for anybody who's been on the webinar and links for the event. Anybody who wants to get in contact with any, just reach out in socials, LinkedIn or whatever for more information. But thanks for everybody this morning for jumping on the webinar, and hope you all
Thank you very much, folks, for joining us. Thanks to Scott, thanks to Canice, and thanks very much for Benny. The feedback that's coming in even in the chat so far is really, really positive. Everybody's just delighted with the wisdom and delighted with the open sharing that's been going on. Look, I think the takeaway for me today was very much that your scaling starts with your mindset. It's all coming back to that, and there's some great tips and thoughts around taking ownership and being accountable as well. So I hope everybody's enjoyed today's webinar. There's lots more. We're talking about asking questions and finding help and finding a mentor. That's probably what Mid-Ulster Enterprise Week is all about. And Mid-Ulster District Council have been putting on a great week of events and showcasing all their support that's available to businesses as well. So I'd encourage anybody. I know there's familiar faces on today. I see some names that have attended events and webinars already this week. I would recommend anybody to jump on to www.midulstercouncil.org/enterprise week. Check out social media. There's lots more. Benny mentioned Todd's Leap taking over TikTok earlier on. And there's actually a TikTok tactics webinar starting at 1:30, just a wee quick lunchtime one with Ria Daly now at 1:30 as well. And for any women that are on the call, we have a brilliant event tomorrow in one to wrap up warm for, one in Roy Forest, not too many miles away, Flourish Wealth and Wellness for Women Entrepreneurs. So it's tomorrow morning as well. So everything can be found online. Anybody that's on today's webinar, we will share the slides that Scott had on the screen earlier on. As Canice said, I will send you out just a little 1-minute evaluation form. Would really appreciate your feedback for council to show how we can improve these events and webinars. And everybody is also going to be entered into the council's chairs prize draw that's taking place on Friday. Some brilliant prizes. And Canice and Scott will be running another event, an in-person event in Dungannon on the 4th of December. We'll also share information on that for all our attendees today. I hope I haven't missed anything out. I just want to thank you all very much again on behalf of Mid-Ulster District Council as part of Mid-Ulster Enterprise Week. Thanks a million, guys, for joining us to host today's event, and thank you to all the attendees. And I just wish everyone a lovely remainder of the day. Thanks very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.